Hello, my friend. This is Clyde. Unimaginable, unbelievable, undeserving. Isaiah chapter 53 from verse 1 to 8 says, "Who has believed our message, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? He grew up before him like a tender shoot and like a root out of dry ground. He had no beauty or majesty to attract us to him, nothing in his appearance that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by mankind, a man of suffering and familiar with pain, like one from whom people hid their faces. He was despised, and we held him in low esteem. Surely he took up our pain and bore our suffering, yet we considered him punished by God, stricken by him, and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him, and by his wounds we are healed. We all, like sheep, have gone astray. Each of us has turned to our own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. He was led like a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before its shearers is silent, so he did not open his mouth. By oppression and judgment he was taken away. Yet who of his generation protested? For he was cut off from the land of the living. For the transgressions of my people he was punished." It is that time of the year again. How the year rolls by so quickly. It seems like only yesterday we were celebrating Christmas and then New Year, and before we had said our last Happy New Year greeting to a really lost last friend we had not seen, it is that time already that scores of people around the world would be celebrating a most heinous, gruesome event that took place in Palestine over 2,000 years ago. The birth of Jesus is a feel-good story. Yes, Mary and Joseph traveled on a donkey for a long distance to Bethlehem to be taxed, and imagine the teenage mother could not find a simple maternity hospital to give birth to her baby, so they ended up in a stable. I cannot imagine that she told anyone when they got back to Nazareth. But there were angels singing and shepherds watching sheep, and wise men came with gifts, and we wrap all of that in a festive season called Christmas. We love Christmas. That was the beginning of a life of intrigue and drama. This little baby grew up, and by age 30 he launched a ministry. He did not build a church or a temple or a cathedral. He did not assemble a team of pastors and preachers. Not once did he take up an offering, but he healed sick, raised dead, fed humongous crowds, spoke to storms to calm down. He did a bunch of good things, no, great things, and he became a hero among the people, so much so that the last time he came into Jerusalem, it was not by foot. Oh no, he rode in on a donkey that he was the first to ride on. That launched the dramatic events that later we read about in our text. The religious leaders, who were always offended by his ministry, plotted with one of his team members, Judas, to capture him and turn him over to the brutal system of execution that the Romans were known for. We call it Good Friday, but it wasn't anything but a Good Friday, because the story got really ugly, like beyond your imagination. They could not pin a specific charge to him in the kangaroo court, headed by Pilate, the weak excuse of a Roman governor. Not being willing to rock the boat, Pilate acquiesced to the demands of the crowd and turned Jesus over to be crucified. What? What crime has he committed? Oh, I will get back to that later. Then the torture, or the theater, started. They whipped him mercilessly like an established, most wanted criminal that they caught after a massive search. They got creative and plaited together a crown made of giant thorns and rammed it on his head. We don't like to talk about this because it eclipses the Christmas story. We like the angels, not the brutal Roman executioners. We like the carols and the pageantry of Christmas, but we hate to confront the events of the sufferings of Christ. But we should not, because it was simply playing out what heaven had already known. Jesus came to die. No, I didn't mean get old, lie in a sick bed and die. Jesus came to die for your sins and mine. It was one of those things that only Jesus could do, because he was the Son of God. It was a supreme sacrifice, gruesome and horrendous. Flesh torn from his back, nails riveted in his hands and feet, and a sharp-pointed spear plunged into his side were some of the highlights of the visuals. But behind the scenes, Jesus was engaged in a fight with Satan, fighting over you, and nobody, not angels or his disciples, could help. He fought all alone. Physically, we see the crucifixion, but spiritually, it is the one man fighting to set a whole human race free. That is why legions of angels could not come to his rescue, and that is why no one in Jerusalem could have interrupted or intercepted the event. It had to happen. He had to go through all of that to rescue us from the prison cells of sin and eternal destruction. It was not to create another religious festival, but it was to liberate you from sin. The details of the events are unimaginable but true, and all of that was experienced by this Messiah for your salvation, so that you would not end up in hell. So what should you do? What are you to do? Tell him thanks. Tell him thanks for dying for you. Give your life to him. Serve him for the rest of your human life. It is the least you can do for all he did for you. If this message means anything to you and you would like to respond to what Jesus went through for you, send me an email to friendofclyde@gmail.com.